Welcome back to the kitchen, y'all. Have you seen the Brazilian limeade recipe? I've seen a couple of people doing it and I decided let's give it a try. Ideally, you would make this with a high-speed blender. I have a blender. It's not a high speed, but I have a blender. I'm just too lazy to get it out and use it. I was using my food processor anyway, so I thought, we'll just use this. So you want to use the blade that is a chop slice blade. One side is sliced, the other side's chop. Basically just going to put your blade on your blender. You're going to take 4 limes and cut them into either 6 or 8s, depending on how small the limes are. And you're going to give those limes a chop. With a high-speed blender, you're going to break them down a lot smaller than with a food processor. And so when you strain it at the end, you're not going to have nearly as much remnants, lime remnants or remains, whatever you want to call it, left. So just chop up or blend up the 4 limes. Once you have your limes done, you're then, if you're using a food processor, going to take that chop slice blade off, clear out a space in the bottom of the food processor, and then put in your blending blade. Now, in a blender, you don't have to do this step. Once you have your blending blade in place, you then want to add 1 can or 14 ounces of sweetened condensed milk. In addition to the condensed milk, you actually want to add 1/3 cup sugar. I forgot to add the sugar at this point. I added it later, but you definitely want to put it in when you put in the sweetened condensed milk because you want to blend the sugar in with your milk and limes before you add the water and ice. You now want to blend the sweetened condensed milk, sugar, and limes that you've chopped up for, I would say, a good 4 to 5 minutes. If you're using a high powered blender, obviously you don't have to go that long. I would say 2.5 minutes is good. But with the food processor, I had to go a little bit longer than that. My food processor is a 9-cup food processor, which means it holds 9 cups. Now, this recipe put it just about going over the brim, so be cautious of that. Once we blend our sweet condensed milk, limes, and sugar, we then want to add 4 cups of ice and 4 cups of water. And we're going to blend that really well. I went for about 7 minutes once I added the water and ice. It thickens up, but then also as it cools down in the fridge, it thickens even more. Food in the high powered blender, you're going to look at probably 4 or 5 minutes. You notice here, I'm actually checking and making sure that that liquid's not coming up over the top. I actually, where you have the insert where you can add stuff into the food processor, I lifted that cup a little so that it would give it a little room for liquid to go up in there so it didn't go out the edges of my food processor. And here's where I remembered the sugar when I was done blending. And nope, not going to add it through the spout because I'm going to get sugar everywhere. So let's just add it into the bowl. After I added the forgotten sugar, I went probably another 2 minutes, not quite 2 minutes, just to get it blended well in there. Again, you want to add it in earlier when we add the sweetened condensed milk. Now that we've got everything blended well, we want to strain our Brazilian ice. I had the brilliant idea that I was going to use a funnel and my strainer and strain it straight into my mason jar. We learn as we go. Lifting the lid very carefully, trying not to spill, and then it takes me a few minutes to get the bowl off of the food processor. Again, doing my best not to spill it. And it was at this point that I realized, you know what, trying to do it this way, I'm going to make a huge mess. Let me get my pitcher. All right, now let's get this strained. We're going to put our strainer over the tea pitcher and simply just pour it into the strainer. Simple enough, right? Well, I used a food processor, so we have more remnants from those limes, and it's going to clog up my strainer a bit. So I'm being very careful here, pouring it in, not splashing, not making a mess. Hold. It's at this point that I was starting to get impatient and pouring a little bit more at a time. And the liquid went over the edge of the tea pitcher and it started dripping down the sides. What can I say? The remnants will build up in the bottom of the tea pitcher, so you do want to take a spoon or spatula or something and clear that out once in a while. Otherwise, it won't strain as quickly or strain at all. And one more goof that I did while making this. Yep, there went the blade. I forgot to take the blade out of the processor bowl before I started pouring it. It happens to everybody, guys. Everybody makes goofs while in the kitchen. So once you get this good and strained, your Brazilian lemonade is ready. Pour it over ice and serve it that way. Any that you don't drink right away, you definitely want to put in a container and put it in the fridge. I have my suspicion that this is going to be better the next day. And I'm also going to test freezing it. I'm going to put it in a freezer safe container, put it in the freezer, and see if I can get it to the slushy stage, not frozen, but more of a slushy stage, and see how that is. I suspect it's going to be really good. I took and put this in a mason jar. I prefer mason jars for things like this because that glass helps to get it cold and keep it cold. And it's just really convenient. This filled my 4-cup mason jar, and then I had enough after that to have 4 glasses over ice, 4 8-ounce glasses over ice. So you get a lot from this recipe. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you give this recipe a try and really like it. It is a sweeter, refreshing drink, but it does have sugar in it. Also, you want to taste your limes before making this and adjust your sugar. You can absolutely add more sugar or take some sugar out depending on your sweetness preference. Like, share, follow, and I hope you join me next time. Thank you.